Bad news for the Blues. The Crows' finals hopes crumble. And what about the Saints' comeback? Welcome to the round so far. Kane, the Blues have to be the big story, don't they? They were pathetic.
Unfortunately, they were. That was the exact word to use for them. This was the opening minutes of the game. It was just right from the start, it was an absolute disaster for them. 77-7 at half-time, this score. This was how easy it was for Fremantle. There's no explaining this. You can't defend it. Look, early on in the game, there is no want, there's no will to defend. Their skill level was as poor as we've seen from any side this year. So whatever's happening at the Blues is not working, and I just get a feeling all the talk of playing a young side and rebuilding, it gets inside the players' heads, and that's an out for them. There is no out for an effort like this. I'd like to see Brendan Bolton get a little bit angry and really give it to the players, because it's all been a little bit too nice so far, and this effort here today, completely unacceptable.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, there was nothing from the coach in the post-game that suggested any change in his line of thinking. In fact, the reality was that Brendan Bolton, in his post-game news conference, just trotted out the same old lines and provided the same old spin. Let's have a listen.
To the players' credit, you know, did a strong culture at half-time. They rallied each other, and I think we may have got over the line in the second half, because that could have got quite messy. So there's a little step forward for us in that. Each year we've dropped the age profile significantly to get young talent in the draft. 40-odd players were turned over. So in essence, this is our youngest year. We're not using this as an excuse, but we went to the draft and have done that. And it's been coupled with injury.
All right, let's break that down then, Kane, because there was a fair bit of spin in that.
Yeah, there was. He says we're not using it as an excuse, but clearly they were excuses. That's all I heard. When you look at it closely, though, youth and inexperience should not be an excuse, because the side they played today, much more inexperienced than Carlton were. We're looking at it there. 3 games for the Dockers with players under 10 games, 2 for the Blues, and under 25, 8-3. So the Dockers ruled out a much more inexperienced list than Carlton did today. And overall, I think their list as a whole is younger than Carlton. So I don't want to hear about Carlton's youth ever again. What they need to do is they need to show up with effort and have a crack, which they clearly didn't, as we showed you in the first quarter today.
We also heard Brendan Bolton talk about culture there, praising the team for the way they rallied at half-time and then came back and kind of almost saved the day, saved it from being a disaster. But look at this from Reece Palmer. He only played 1 game for the Blues, so didn't have a particularly successful career there. But he says everyone talks about draft picks and developing youth, but no one ever talks about culture. I wonder what he's alluding to there.
Not sure, a bit cryptic there from Reece, and you probably take his opinion with a pinch of salt, considering the career didn't pan out the way he would have liked to. A bit of bad blood there, clearly, but you'd need to ask him to explain those comments.
All right, let's go to Metricon Stadium now, where it really was a tale of 2 halves. Sadly for the Suns, they couldn't hold on against the Saints, but they were pretty impressive, really. I mean, they were playing the Saints, but they were pretty impressive in the first half.
Yeah, it's different to Carlton, isn't it? When you see the side play with some system, they set up to defend, and then I thought the way they moved the ball, particularly in the first half today, was really impressive against this Carlton side, and they scored quite freely and quite easily. So the system and structure that Stuart Dew's put in place, clearly there's been some improvement in that. This was the downside, though. When that pressure dropped off, St Kilda were just able to cut through them, and they kicked 33 points to no score in the last quarter. We'll speak a little bit about Gold Coast last quarters shortly in the program, but the Saints put it all on the line late. I thought it was going to be a little bit too late for the Saints, and I thought the Suns would hold on, but credit to St Kilda. A win's a win, and no doubt they'll enjoy that one tonight, but still so much room to improve on for the Saints.
Yeah, absolutely, and an amazing finish to this match as well, courtesy of Gresham, and he is a real hero in the eyes of Saints fans this weekend. There is no doubt about that, is there? Would that be relief for Alan Richardson?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, clearly relief. First win since round 1, so not sure there's too many positives to take out of it other than they won.
All right, let's take a look at the Suns now and what is going on with their final quarters.
Yeah, it's an amazing stat, this. They've scored 2 points in their last 4 quarters, so there's probably a number of factors in this. The travel schedule that they had at the start of the year, clearly they're tired. Perhaps it's fitness and a young, inexperienced group that just hasn't been able to get it done late.
Just quickly, there was an injury blow for the St Kilda Football Club with Bailey Rice suffering concussion by the looks of it in this MLC injury update. You can see there the head clash with Gold Coast's Jack Martin, and obviously he went down and was in a fair bit of pain, and we never like to see it when there's a player stretchered from the ground, as was the case here with Bailey Rice. Hopefully he is okay. All right, let's go to the MCG next. A fairly small crowd for the occasion, and they didn't see a particularly cracking game of football, did they?
No, this is a big story. Adelaide gone from playing in a grand final last year to clearly going to miss the 8 this year. Their score, you can see it there, 4-8-32 is their lowest score in 7 years for the Crows, their lowest ever against Hawthorn, and they've now lost 4 games in a row for the first time since 2011. So clearly everything that they've done this year has gone wrong. You take it back right to pre-season when the players came back out of shape. According to the club, they also went on the camp that's been spoken about, and then there's been the mismanagement of their playing list with the injuries. But I haven't seen the Crows play as poor a game as this in a long, long time. Their skill errors and their effort too. I mean, Hawthorn absolutely dominated the clearances, plus 22 in clearances, plus 22 in contested ball. They dominated disposals, yet Adelaide were only able to lay 47 tackles. So I don't care who's out there. There was no effort, and right now the Adelaide Footy Club are a broken side.
And we keep hearing about the injury toll, but how much of an excuse is that? And is there going to be more on that, do you think, particularly in the off-season when we get to it, about what's gone wrong with the injury toll?
Yeah, well, clearly it's an excuse. You'd have to be silly not to think that, but I'd be more concerned about the way they moved the ball today and their lack of effort, regardless of who was out there. The last 2 weeks and the 91-point loss against Melbourne a few weeks ago, real concerning, and clearly their season is now over.
All right, now this bloke you've criticised in the past, but credit where credit is due for today's Saturday Star.
He's been having a terrific year. Right now he's in the All-Australian team across halfback. James Sicily, once again today, 24 disposals at 88%. Just rarely wastes the footy, and he's got such a weapon with this kick. Coupled it with 3 goals today, which was amazing. Once again, pretty ordinary marking from the Crows there, with Sicily just bombing another one from outside 50. But he's a Saturday Star today, and I just reckon over the last 3 or 4 weeks he's really kept his emotions in check. So credit to him. I was critical of him on this program for letting it get the better of him, but he's pulled that in and he's playing terrific footy. As I said, right now he's in the All-Australian team.
I reckon he's been watching the show.
He must have been.
We'll send a cheerio to you right now, James. Now, Buddy Franklin, now the trend on Twitter was that Lance did a rant, but you think that this particular incident, which has been criticised with Buddy Franklin for staging, if you like, he's completely different to the rants one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even sure why we're talking about it. If you could put them side by side, the same motion started it, but Rance ended up on pretty much on his face with his arms splayed out in front of him. Buddy's just taking a tiny exaggeration on that. That's a free kick and nothing to see there, and I'm glad that he wasn't fined for staging for that one.
Yeah, it wasn't really looked at with any great degree of detail by Michael Christian, as far as we know. So, what about Alia? He is a player we've picked out of this game just as a bloke who probably hasn't had the opportunities this season, but this was a fairly impressive performance.
No, it was good. There's 6 intercept marks. He took 18 disposals across half-back, and I just think he could be really important in the back half of the year in the absence of Callum Mills. I mean, they're different types of players, but playing a similar role, Mills such a good intercept player and good user of the footy. O'Leary still makes me a little bit nervous when he gets the ball and needs to just steady up with his disposals. He does have the tendency to turn it over, but as I said, he was really important in cutting off the moves from Josh Kennedy in the forward line and played a terrific game on Friday night.
That's only his second game of the season. Do you think he keeps his spot?
Oh, no doubt on that, yeah.
All right, what about Ollie Wines? His contract status has obviously been in the news and his stocks are rising.
Yeah, ever since 2 weeks ago, a fortnight ago, he put that on the agenda once again, saying he's not ready to sign the contract. His performances over the last 2 weeks, firstly Friday night against Richmond 2 weeks ago, and then on Thursday night against the Bulldogs, unbelievable. He's one of the form players in the competition. Just look at the inside 50s there, 8.5 inside 50s, and also doing a lot of things extremely well. So his price continues to rise, and Port Adelaide will be getting more nervous the longer the weeks go on. We're into round 14 now, heading into it, and no signature. So we'll watch this space.
I don't want to be too presumptuous, but I imagine he's in your core team of the week?
Yeah, for the second week in a row, he'll be in there, no doubt about that.
All right, one more talking point from the round so far, the 4-umpire trial. What's your take?
No good. I just think when there's 4 out there, they're more inclined to pay free kicks. We've seen an increase of 15% on the free kicks from when they have 4 umpires this round to the previous rounds when there's only been 3. So, look, I just think it's unnecessary.
Okay, to the ladder we go, and it is taking shape. I'll tell you what, there's some interesting reading here, that is for sure. The West Coast Eagles and the Swans now tied on 40 points at the top of the table. And really interesting to see Hawthorn now in 9th position, just outside the 8 on percentage. And down the bottom, well, the Blues, they remain in 18th spot with a terrible percentage. We've got 1 game to go this round, and it is an absolute cracker.
It will be Richmond taking on Geelong at the G, where Richmond plays so well, going for, 15 or 16 in a row at the MCG. Both sides in really good form. I was so impressed by what Geelong did to North Melbourne last week. I think Asprey's a massive out for Richmond. I still think they'll be good enough on the ground that they love so much, but should be a great contest. One
more thing before we go. Now, the Blues fans were booing their team as they went off the ground at half-time, but what about the reaction at the end of the game? I was surprised by this, to be honest.
I couldn't believe this. I wasn't shocked when I heard them booing their side at half-time when the score was 77-7. So, I mean, they're very, very easily pleased, those Carlton fans pictured there, clapping off. I think Brendan Bolton said they won the second half, but who cares, really, the game was over. So, I mean, well done to them for at least staying and getting behind their team when they need it. But if I'm a Carlton fan, I'm asking serious questions this week.
Yeah, for sure. Kane, thank you. Thank you for watching the round so far.